This is the F-100 Eluminator Concept, and it's based on a heritage 1978 F-100 pickup. However, there's a major difference between the two. In this video, I'm gonna let you know what I think about this design and overall concept, because whether you're a fan of EVs or not, this is a special truck. Once I've analyzed this design, I'm going to show you my 3 favorite classic EV resto mods currently for sale. You wanna stick around for those because those are pretty fantastic and also pretty expensive, which we're gonna talk about later in the video. So in case you didn't guess it by now, the F-100 Eluminator here is all electric and all-wheel drive, thanks to 2 powerful electric motors that are shared with the 2021 Mustang Mach-E GT Performance Edition. 2 electric motors drive the front and rear wheels, giving the F-100 Eluminator a massive 480 horsepower and 634 pound-feet of torque. Eluminator, the first E-crate motor from Ford Performance Parts, is based on the Mustang Mach-E GT traction motor. You can buy this motor online for a very reasonable $3,900 through Ford Performance Parts. However, it's sold out pretty quick, so if you want one right now, you're gonna have to wait until they're back in stock. What I would like to know is what awesome projects are people going to use this motor for? I would love to see every single one of them because I think they all are going to be pretty spectacular. Here's why resto modding classic cars into EVs won't work. Not according to me, but to a lot of people. They say you can never get the feeling of a V8 from an electric motor. It doesn't rumble on startup. There are no vibrations throughout the chassis when you rev it up. No noise or no drama. It's like the engine wants to run free and show you what it can do. All you have to do is just put it in gear and floor it to unleash the beast and hear it scream as it transports you into another dimension you'll never forget. They say this is impossible with an EV. They say it doesn't have a soul. It lacks a heartbeat. And you know what? I can completely see where they're coming from. Converting, let's say, a muscle car into an EV is like eating a plant-based burger. It might look the same, but you know something's off. It just doesn't feel right. But let's quickly jump into Photoshop here and let me give you another perspective on these types of resto mods, and maybe, just maybe, I can change your mind. So here it is. This is the Ford F-100 Eluminator Concept, and the thing I love about this design is that it looks like the original. You don't even have LED lighting in here. I think these are halogen lights, and that's what I love about this concept. It's like taking the old 60s truck, transforming it into a modern version of itself that is more reliable and more powerful than the original while keeping the original styling. So if we look at the details here, for example, this grille, it's body colored here, and those are kind of the changes that you see here. You see the body colored grille here, the body colored bumper here, which normally I think would be chrome or black or something like that. And then you have these wheels that look like they're made of steel, old steel wheels, but these are actually made from aluminum, and they're very modern in their design as well, thanks to the diameter of these wheels. So it all kind of ties together. If you look closely at all the details, you can see that there is something different about this truck compared to, of course, the original Ford F-100 from the 60s, but it's not too much. You still have these gaps in the panels, for example, which makes it look like it's really built in the 60s. And of course, you have everything being electric here, so no V8 under the hood on this concept right here. And that's what I love about this design specifically. Let's have a look at the rear. And what I would think they would do if they were to resto mod an F-100 truck like this is to at least put some LED lights in the rear, like this Wolf, something I can't remember the name of the company in California. They're called Wolf or something like that, where they have LED bars in the taillights. I think these are LEDs. I'm not sure, but they kind of look like a mix between halogen and LEDs. But at the same time, it's very authentic to the 60s design, specifically with this stamped Ford lettering right there, and this specific bumper that is typical for this era of car design, and the wheels themselves, everything, all the details. It's a brand new truck, but they made it look and feel like the original 60s truck. So the special thing about this F-100 Eluminator, in my opinion, is yes, it doesn't have a V8. It doesn't have that rumble and noise and vibration in the chassis that you have with a V8, specifically from the 60s. But what it does have is the same authentic 60s design in a more reliable package that is the electric motors and the overall design and engineering of this thing. So think of it like this. Would you rather not have these type of designs at all on the roads, or would you like them to be electric when we can still appreciate the design and the styling of these cars, specifically the 60s and 70s muscle cars? Yes, you wouldn't hear the noise, but you would still get to appreciate the moving sculpture of what it actually is. And that's why I think these type of cars, they do have a place in the market space for these type of resto mods, where you take old classic cars and turn them into electric, because I would rather have them on the streets as EVs rather than having them not on the street at all, if that makes sense. Let's just quickly have a look at the side view here and just how beautifully done this is. I love the design of this, and the stance also, it sits in a perfect level right here, very beautifully done. And I also love these wheels because they look like the old steel wheels, although they are very modern in both the design and engineering. And even the color scheme here reminds me of a 60s design. So what I want to do now is show you my 3 favorite resto mods from classic cars that are built today, and also the prices of them. So first up, we have the Charged Mustang. This is a 1967 Ford Mustang that's been transformed into a performance EV with a total of 4 motors for a combined output of 536 horsepower and 885 pound-feet of torque, 4-wheel drive, 64 kilowatt-hour battery capacity with a range of about 200 miles. It's not the longest range, but it also a pretty decent range if you want to daily drive this thing. 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds and 50 kilowatt DC charging. The problem with these type of cars is, of course, the price. Since they are so difficult to build at this moment, to convert something like this into an EV, the price of this Charged Mustang here is $350,000. But they still have sold a couple of them, but I'm looking forward to the day when we can have just almost like a sliding skateboard that you can just place under any type of chassis, any type of bodywork, and all of a sudden it will become an electric car. We're not there in a long, we still have a long way to go to get to that point, but these are starting points for that type of design. And just looking at it, it has a similar approach to the F-100 Eluminator Concept, where you keep the original styling of the 1967 design of the Mustang, but they went a little further here. As you can see, specifically if you look at the lights right here, these are definitely LED lights, which it looks pretty good. I don't know if I would prefer to have it be looking almost identical to a regular 1967 Mustang, or if I would prefer these small upgrades to the lighting specifically. I'm not sure. I would probably go with the original look. Still, this is a very cool design right here. And if they're in the rear, they decided to go with the Shelby taillights right here. Me personally, I'm a huge fan of the 1967 Fastback, or the standard design in the rear end. So I would prefer to have to me is one of the most beautiful looking rear ends in automotive history. So I would rather have the 3 lights that goes like this in the 67 rather than having the Shelby lights here. Still looks good. It's still a cool concept. It still needs some work to perfect this type of transition or merge between a 60s classic and an EV, but we're getting there, and this is just proof that development is underway and we're getting these cars out on the road. Next up, we have the RBW Roadster. It may look like an MGB, but this is in fact completely rebuilt and re-engineered underneath the bodywork to better work as an EV. It's not the quickest EV out there, that's for sure, with motors taken from a Nissan Leaf. This gives it a 0 to 60 miles per hour time in just under 9 seconds, and the top speed is limited to 80 miles per hour with a 160 mile range for those Sunday drives that can be extended to 200 miles, which is again not too bad with the optional bigger battery. So the price for this, if we have a look at the price for a Mustang, $350,000, this Roadster right here is $110,000. So we're getting down there, and this is actually almost, I would say, affordable for just having an electric weekend cruiser, and it looks absolutely fantastic. The thing I love about this is that they went with the same approach as we have on the F-100 Concept, the Eluminator Concept, to keep it as original as possible, but we can still notice there is something modern with this design. For example, the biggest giveaway here for me are the wheels. They're definitely bigger than original, and it looks a lot better in my opinion as well. Even though we have the classic styling of a British 60s sports cars in the wheels, they're still very modern, but overall the rest of the car is totally rebuilt, and you can kind of see the quality of the panels here. Just looking at the panel gaps of this thing right here, it looks like a quality build. And I think for $110,000, the work that goes into transforming something like this into an EV, I think it's worth it. It's getting into that price point where you can justify justify paying that price for the amount of work that goes into this, and not just the exterior, but the interior of these things as well. Last but not least, my favorite electric RestoMod GT of a classic car. It has to, design-wise, it has to be the Totem GT Electric, and the GT Electric is based on the beautiful classic Alfa Romeo Giulia GT of the 60s, but only 10% of the original chassis remains, and that's for a good reason. The electric RestoMod here, it puts out 518 horsepower, which is quite a bit more than the original Alfa Giulia GT's 192 horsepower. That means, of course, that you need to strengthen the overall chassis of the new car. 0 to 60 miles per hour takes just 3.4 seconds, and the top speed is claimed to be 152 miles per hour. So this is a proper sports car right here. It's pretty high for an EV, and I suspect you won't get the full 224-mile range if you keep going at those kinds of speed. The problem with the Totem GT right here is the price. So the price is definitely the most expensive amongst these three here. So this goes for about $500,000. That is insane amount of money for this type of car. But if you look at what it actually is, it's a complete restyling of the old Giulia GT from the 60s, or the Giulia from the 60s, in a modern way. So the entire body is new, the chassis is new, the interior is new, and it has a lot of power as well. So this is a proper performance EV right here. And just look at this stance here, how it sits planted on the ground. This is exactly what you want specifically in an Italian sports car, and more specifically in an Alfa Romeo. So this looks like to me, it's a perfect RestoMod from a 60s Giulia into a modern version. You also have the beautiful wheels here. You can definitely look at the taillight here. You can see that there is something going on that is definitely not 60s here, that is definitely modern, but it melts very beautifully into the rest of the body in these classic Alfa Romeo Giulia lines right here. So we are heading towards a very interesting era of EVs and RestoMods, where we'll keep the original designs, or the overall beauty and the sculptures of old cars. We can resurrect them as EVs with even more reliability and more power, but we need to bring the prices down in order to make this an everyday car, or everyday cars like this. But the key point here is that we keep moving in the right direction, and that's why I'm a fan of all of these three cars and the Ford F-100 Eluminator Concept as well.